Defining success on your own terms is a trap. For years, I told myself I was defining success on my own terms. I'd escaped the 9 to 5 grind and I was building something that was finally mine. But one morning, staring at my to do list, I had this terrifying realization. I was just as burnt out and miserable as I was before. Success on my own terms wasn't freedom, it was just a prettier cage I built for myself. And it wasn't until I had to face a shocking vulnerability I never knew I had that I finally understood what real success feels like. And the crazy thing is, I wasn't alone. It turns out that a staggering 87.7% of entrepreneurs deal with at least one mental health issue, and 34.4% of them are experiencing burnout. And this is not some personal failing, it's an epidemic hiding in plain sight. So now let's look at the first trap: chasing hustle culture. My journey started like so many others. I was all in on hustle culture. I truly believed that success was a simple equation of hours logged equals dollars, and my days were just a blur of caffeine-fueled sprints, chasing growth at any cost. The scoreboard was public too: revenue charts, follower counts, market share, and these were the metrics that proved I was winning. I wore my 60-hour work weeks like a badge of honor, completely ignoring the fact that productivity is known to plummet after the 50-hour mark. I told myself that the exhaustion was just temporary, the price of admission for the life I was trying to build. But the exhaustion never left. It just settled into my bones and became this low-grade hum of anxiety that never quite went away. I was hitting the goals I'd set, but the feeling wasn't fulfillment, it was just relief. A brief pause before the giant mountain appeared, demanding to be climbed. So eventually, I hit a wall, and the kind of burnout that doesn't just make you tired, it makes you question everything. My passion had curdled into resentment. I'd look at the business I had poured my life into and feeling nothing. It was obvious that this part, the traditional part of more, was a dead end. So I did what any enlightened entrepreneur would do. I decided to reject hustle culture and start defining success on my own terms. So now let's look at the second trap: the prettier cage. And this new chapter felt incredible. I wasn't going to be a slave to growth metrics anymore. My new definition of success was very holistic. It was about freedom, flexibility, and making an impact. I felt like I was part of a movement, especially with other female founders who were rightfully pushing back on those narrow, outdated benchmarks. So now success was about my quality of life, my confidence, and my ability to balance everything without losing my mind. I was building a business that served my life, not the other way around. And I'll say that it was a beautiful idea, and for a little while, it actually worked. But slowly, this new pressure started to build. Success on my own terms just became its own rigid set of expectations. I wasn't just supposed to be building a successful company. I was also supposed to have a perfect work-life balance. I was supposed to be an effortlessly mindful visionary leader. And of course, document my new curated balanced life on social media to prove how well it was all working. The metrics had just changed. Instead of revenue growth, I was tracking my authenticity. And instead of market share, I was measuring my impact. I had simply traded one impossible standard for another. I was living in the execution gap, that paralyzing space between knowing what you should be doing to be holistically successful and having the actual time and energy to do it. And I'll tell you, I was just as burnt out as before, but this time it came with a thick new layer of guilt. I was supposed to be enlightened. I had the right definition of success, so why was I still failing? Why did it feel like I was running on a hamster wheel inside a prettier, more sophisticated, socially accepted cage? So now here's the turning point, and this is a shocking vulnerability even for me. My second crash was quieter than the first, but way more profound. It wasn't some spectacular flame out, it was a slow creeping sense of dread. And one evening, after a day where I had done everything right, I meditated, spent time with my family, hit inbox zero, I still felt this hollow ache in my chest. And that's when I finally asked myself the right question. What if the problem isn't the definition of success? What if the problem is the chase itself? That's when I uncovered the vulnerability I had been avoiding my entire life. And that vulnerability is that my self-worth was completely conditional. It didn't matter if the condition was make $1 million or live a perfectly balanced, value-aligned life. My balance was wired with a simple, brutal equation. If the business succeeds, I am worthy. If it fails, I am worthless. And this is the hidden engine of entrepreneurial burnout. Your sense of self gets so tangled up with your company, any business challenge feels like a personal attack. You're not just facing a market downturn, you're facing proof of your own inadequacy. And it's no wonder so many of us are struggling. When your very worth is on the line every single day, anxiety and burnout aren't just risks, they're inevitable. So now let's look at the solution. Building a foundational self. Realizing this changed everything, and the answer wasn't to find a better definition of success. The answer was to tear down the whole system of conditional worth. It was to build a self that was stable and secure no matter what happened with my business. And this is the real work, and it has nothing to do with goals or metrics. So first, I had to secure my foundation, and this meant focusing on pillars of a stable life, not just a stable business. I'm talking about the financial resilience, the ability to handle a shock. It meant setting non-negotiable boundaries to protect my mental health and radically prioritizing my quality of life. Success isn't the peak of the mountain, it's the solid ground that won't crumble underneath you when a storm hits. So second, I had to ignore the gurus, all of them, the ones selling endless growth and the ones selling a perfect minimalistic lifestyle. I had to unplug from the constant stream of outside validation. True confidence doesn't come from proving yourself, it comes from trusting yourself. And this meant learning to listen to my own gut over the noise of the internet and making choices based on what was right for me and not what I thought would look good for others. Third, I had to embrace community. The myth of the lone wolf entrepreneur is one of the most toxic lies we're told. Conditional self-worth thrives in isolation, and the antidote is genuine connection. I sought out mentors and peers, not just for business advice, but for psychological support. And these relationships gives you the accountability and emotional backing that make the journey sustainable. They remind you that you are a human being first and an entrepreneur second. So before I share what my life looks like now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt trapped by your own definition of success? Let me know in the comments. Your story matters, and you're definitely not alone in this. So now here's the new reality, and that's success as stability. So now what does life look like now? I'll say it's quieter, is less about dramatic peaks and more about a high stable plateau. My definition of success is not a destination anymore. It's a feeling. It's the peace I feel on a Tuesday afternoon. It's the freedom to make choices that aren't driven by fear or the need to prove something. It's stability. And the great paradox is that when I stopped obsessively chasing growth, my business became healthier and more sustainable. By focusing on my own well-being, I created the conditions for my work to thrive without it, and without it consuming me. When you stop trying to force growth, you allow for it to happen organically. So for years, I thought freedom was about drawing my own map. Now, I know that true freedom comes from building a secure foundation to stand on, no matter where the map leads. And the trap is not the goal, it's tying your fundamental worth as a person to whether or not you get there. The most successful thing you can ever build is a self that is not for sale, a self whose worth isn't conditional on any outcome, and that's the only success that can be taken away from you. That is the only success that truly sets you free.